That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Wolf of Snow Hollow, ostensibly the sophomore feature directed by Jim Cummings, which will be released courtesy of Orion Classics, October 9th, 2020.
This was a fun film.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a small town in Utah, like a mountainous town. And we find the deputy, played by Jim Cummings.
Mm-hmm. He's John Marshall.
So Deputy John Marshall. His dad's the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
The film opens with a couple going into like a cabin in town for like a weekend vacation when the female companion is murdered. Mm-hmm. And she's like gruesomely attacked. Like part of her pelvic girdle is removed. It's pretty savage. So of course it's a big deal in the town. So Deputy Marshall goes in to try to figure out what's going on. Another murder occurs, and there's a lot of confusion because of how the bodies are like mutilated. They get feedback that it seems like based on the bite marks, it could be a wolf. One of the other law enforcement agents thinks it might be a werewolf.
Well, because it's happening during a full moon.
It's happening during a full moon. The townspeople are ridiculing the deputy for like not being able to catch this killer. Even the coroner is saying like, you know, my 6-year-old daughter could solve this case. Like, what are you guys doing? It culminates with a man, like it's like some townie who lives like on the outskirts. Because some people have like witnessed like this vision or witnessed the killer. So they're saying he's very tall. Mm-hmm. And that's about it. Like, it's just a tall man who might have access to, like, sharp things. So, this towny man who lives on the outskirts ends up dying. Mm-hmm. So, when his, like, trailer is inspected, they find, like, knives. They find, like, human remains in the backyard.
He has a wolf tattoo.
So, case closed, must be him. Mm-hmm. In the background, Deputy Marshall is an alcoholic, so we see him attending AA meetings. He's separated from his wife. He has a teenage daughter who's going off to college. Their relationship is strained. So he's stressed out. He's started drinking again. But after the man who they think is the killer has died, Deputy Marshall is like getting a bunch of evidence together to return back to the people who it was taken from, when he goes to see a local man who's a taxidermist. Mm-hmm. And they have an exchange where the man said, and this is like basically the end of the film, where this taxidermist says something that kind of sets off some red flags. Mm-hmm. But the sheriff says, you know what, I have to go. He leaves, but then he thinks, like, let me come back, because when the guy answers the door, he is kind of hunching over. And the description of the killer was someone who was like 6'5" or taller. Mm-hmm. So when he goes back to the man's house, knocks on the door and says, hey, would you do me a favor and stand to your like normal height? In what I thought was a really creepy scene, the guy kind of like stands up straight and he is very tall. Mm-hmm. So clearly the man recognizes that the deputy knows it's not right, slams the door in his face, the deputy breaks in, they start fighting, the man stabs the deputy in like the torso. Mm-hmm. Luckily, another deputy, a female, who's played by
Riki Lindhome.
Do I know her from something else?
You asked that, and you didn't see Knives Out. She has a big part in that. She's been in a bunch of stuff, but
she looks familiar. But
I thought she was kind of Jennifer Carpenter-esque.
Okay. She's another deputy who also found some suspicious evidence and kind of put 2 and 2 together and was on her way lickety-split to the taxidermist's house anyway. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the deputy and the taxidermist are like out in like the woods fighting when the other deputy shows up and like disarms the taxidermist. And at that point, the deputy shoots and kills him. Mm-hmm. The final scene of the film is that female deputy has now become sheriff. Mm-hmm. And the sheriff and Deputy Marshall have taken his daughter like off to college. The end. All right.
Well, first of all, this was the last film of Robert Forster. It is dedicated to his memory.
He plays Deputy Marshall's dad, the original sheriff.
Yeah, that's why they think John Marshall's is destined to take over that position. And he doesn't have as much to do. He plays a man that has a heart murmur and who dies within the film. But still, there's a strange finality watching that for him, because I'm a fan of Robert Forster.
So what did I like? I like the look of the film.
It was shot by Natalie Kingston.
It has a really clean, crisp look.
Who shot a few Billie Eilish music videos.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I like the look of it quite a bit.
But I think the main attraction is Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings. Yes.
Jim Cummings. I think he is really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
He's quirky. He obviously has a sense of humor.
He's very handsome.
He's very handsome. He's very watchable, and his portrayal as this deputy, like kind of neurotic, high-strung,
kind of fragile,
but fragile because he's very like thin, but very put together.
Mm-hmm. And almost every interaction is, there's this seething irritation and everything.
Yes, which I found very amusing.
It is very amusing. So his last film. He made a film in 2010. I don't know that was released anywhere, but 2018's Thunder Road, which was based on an earlier short of his, won the South by Southwest Film Festival and was commended. It was on a lot of year-end lists as one of the best of the year. It opens with him as he's again playing a neurotic cop that's giving a eulogy. So I sense that he likes that artifice of him in the AA meetings, for instance, where he's facing a crowd that's off camera while he's kind of delivering his characterization.
It does work. I'm into it. What else do you have to say?
Since we just watched Scare Me, about a terrible white male writer who can't write a story about a werewolf for the life of me, I thought this was funny.
But Scare Me is a good movie.
Scare Me is a good movie, but the character within that movie who's struggling to write a werewolf narrative. This is a way to do it. I like the twist that it is not a werewolf. There are scenes that I wouldn't call this terrifying or horrifying. It's more of a really good character study for Mr. Cummings. There are scenes I really like, such as when his daughter is doing hanky-panky with her boyfriend in the car after curfew and the werewolf attacks. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a nicely staged scene. I know you thought it was a little anticlimactic, but I do like the third act resolution. I think that works well. I'm a fan of indie werewolf movies. Of course, watching this, I thought of Eric Red's Bad Moon with Mariel Hemingway, or this other film that's kind of underrated but doesn't get to the degree of this film, called Late Phases by Adrian Garcia Bagliano. There's just a lot to like here. I noticed in the daughter's bedroom there's just a poster for The Love Witch, which is this really interesting indie film from a couple years ago, which Mr. Cummings, I'm sure, is a fan of. I don't know, I was very pleased with it.
I was pleased. I did mention that I think if it weren't for him, obviously I wouldn't have been as engaged with this film. So I think for that reason, I would give this film 3 out of 5.
But I think I liked Riki Lindhome is good in her how she's Officer Julia Robinson.
Oh yes.
I liked the Jimmy Tatro, who played the man in the early couple who gets inflamed at someone using the word faggot, and he calls them out.
Yeah.
I really liked his presence. I just liked everyone's dynamic in this, even that schlubby coroner.
Yeah.
And in the scene where he's slapping in his face.
Well, I'll give it 3.5 out of 5.
I think 3.5 out of 5 is fair. I was very pleased. It's just an interesting tonal exercise.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Bye.
Bye.